What is up, everybody? It is the Tailgate with Brandon and myself. Not your head if I'm supposed to be adding you on here, Mister sitting in the backstage. Not your head. Yes. No.
What's up,
What's
boys?
up, Felix?
What's up, boys?
What's up?
Broadcasting live from my bathroom, hiding from my children.
Every parent knows that struggle, though, so that's not necessarily a bad thing. So we're here, final week of the Tailgate. A little sad to see it go, but also a little happy. It's frees up an hour of my Saturday morning every Saturday, so I won't complain about that. But how are you two gentlemen doing? I was going to say I thought we were all supposed to be wearing our college play. Oh wait, that's right. You guys haven't made it into the college playoffs yet. I apologize. So, but anyways, how are you two doing? How you guys doing on the beautiful Saturday of the game, the greatest rivalry in all of sports, not just college football?
I'm ready. I am ready.
I'm ready too, and I think that it's going to be closer than people in the big house. You know, if that front four can create pressure, then C.J. Stroud and company are going to have a problem.
I don't disagree with you, Brandon. I was on Decoding Debbie with Brandon earlier this week, and we talked a lot about the game. And I said the same thing, didn't I, Brandon? I do not think that this is going to be a blowout. I know a lot of people seem to think it will be. I'm honestly, I won't lie, like that much nervous that Ohio State might actually lose this game. Like there's a realistic shot that they lose, and I brought that up with Hutchinson. Is it Jabo? I feel like I always say his name wrong.
Yeah, Jabo.
Jabo. We saw what Oregon was able to do, that offensive line and C.J. Stroud without Thibodeau, without Justin Flo, and they lost Terry Miller on that offensive line a couple weeks ago as well. So granted, Henderson wasn't what he is right now, but still Stroud's a little bit better. But I think they've not really seen a defensive front like that. And we talked obviously a little bit as well. They haven't been in a lot of away games that there's a lot of pressure on them outside of, and a lot of people are going to laugh when I say this, the Nebraska game when they were in Lincoln, Nebraska, and Stroud did struggle in that game, threw a massive interception, had a big fumble toward the end of that game. That game was not I think they ended up winning by like 13 or 14 points, but it was a lot closer than that going into the final couple minutes of that game. The Big House, one of the biggest stadiums in all of college football. The fans are right on top of you. It's going to be a good game. Felix, I'll let you have the floor because I don't know how long you're going to be here. So go ahead. Go.
Yeah, the one thing we know about C.J. Stroud is we know where he's going to be. He's going to be in the pocket. For some reason, Ryan Day doesn't emphasize his quarterbacks running the ball, neither with Justin Fields or C.J. Stroud, who's not nearly the athlete that Fields was. And so I compared this game to when the Patriots went undefeated and they played the Giants once at the end of the regular season and then again in the Super Bowl. If you can create pressure with four, even with Jackson Smith and Jigba and Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson and all the weapons that they have, then the math is in your favor on defense. And so that is how they win this game. Now, we've seen Ohio State give up some rushing yards earlier in the season. That hasn't been the case recently. I don't know. Is Blake Corum healthy? I mean, if they're
I've heard he's going to play. I heard he could have played last week. And I don't know, he might tweak it, but I from what I heard, he's going to be available.
Well, look for Michigan to try to shorten this game. That's what they do with all of their games. They're going to try to run the ball 50 times today, run for over 300 yards, not put it in the air and keep the Ohio State offense off the field. And, if they're at home, if they get a lead, they go up 7, 14-0, 14-3, something like that, then they could put some pressure on Ohio State and make them run the ball. I think you got to get Travion Henderson out of the game. That's just too many aspects of the offense to defend. And so if they can put pressure on C.J. Stroud by getting up a few scores, 14-3, put them in. First down is going to be really important for Michigan. First up, you got to have them be behind the chains so they're in passing situations often. You can't have them in 2nd and 3, 2nd and 4, stuff like that. You got to get them behind schedule. And so we'll see what happens. Go Blue.
Go Blue.
Yeah, sure. Whatever he just said. Yeah, we'll definitely. Brandon and myself will talk more about that game here. Before we get should we? Brandon, we got a little thing for the fans here. Should we play it now or toward the end of the episode? What do you think?
I don't know what this is, so I really have no opinion.
We'll do it now. We've been doing this for 13 weeks now, or really 14 weeks, because week 0 doesn't actually count as week 1 for college football. So we've been doing the tailgate from the beginning. So all of us here at Campus to Canton just wanted to say a little thank you to everybody who's tuned in and made this show as great as it has been since week 0. Hey everyone, I just wanted to say quickly from all of us at Campus to Canton that we are very thankful for those that tuned in and made the tailgate a huge success in season 1. When we decided to do the Saturday morning show, we were not sure how it would go or how it would be received. And all the viewers and everybody in our Discord and on our website have made it a ton of fun every single morning. And we ourselves have had a lot of fun with it, which we are very appreciative of. So I just wanted to say from the bottom of our hearts, from all of us at Campus to Canton, we say thank you so much for tuning in every single Saturday. Now enjoy some of the highlights from season 1 of the tailgate.
Welcome to a rockin' morning here at Campus to Canton. Guys, it's week 0. We made it. We survived. The offseason is over. College football is here. Welcome into our first episode of The Tailgate, our weekly show here at Campus to Canton that is going to be getting you ready for everything college football, CFF, C2C, DFS, every other alphabet letter that you could possibly imagine string together. And I'm joined by
this week against a defense giving up 130 yards on the ground.
What is it with Matthew and running backs from Oregon State? I mean, does he have great? Is he a great vision guy also?
No, he's not. I don't know. I haven't really looked into him. I'm excited to look into him, though. How's Ramondre Stevenson doing now? Is he, after a fumble and just kind of sitting on the bench for the Patriots every season? Yeah, preseason. Woo!
And your boy
that doesn't count.
Pat myself on the
Preseason
back.
doesn't count.
I know,
Preseason
right?
does
I
not
forgot.
count.
That's something. Those highlights were out there. It increased his value in fantasy.
I wish their Tony Reale button. I got it. Boom, 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 boom. They're all muted. All of you calm down. All right. We'll take y'all out of timeout now. Everybody calm? Everybody good? Okay. One last thing on that.
Go ahead.
I figured Felix would know how Jamar Jefferson was doing. Isn't he on Detroit?
Yeah, he was. I think he got cut. I couldn't even remember his name. Jamar Jefferson.
He didn't get cut, which just speaks to how great of a fan you are. He's still on the team. He's the third string running back.
I've been a fan since 1998. I've gone through so many heartbreaks. When Justin Tucker kicked that field goal and it bounced off the upright and then went in, I just laughed because that's not the first time that Justin Tucker has done that to us. As a matter of fact, quick story time. Okay. Thursday night football, the line. Aaron Rodgers was injured. Jay Cutler was injured. I think this was in 2014 or so. They were all injured. We needed to win one game to lock up a playoff spot. We were playing the Ravens. Justin Tucker kicks a 61. So he kicks a field goal from the other side of the 50 to go up 2. I want to say with a minute and 30 left.
6.5 out.
We get the kickoff. Matthew Stafford throws an interception on the first play, and I spiked my phone. I couldn't help. I was holding my hand. I spiked my cell phone. I went in the shower and cried. Then I had a flip phone for like 2 years after that. I think it was 2013 or so. So that was the last time, Justin. And it was at Ford Field. Reggie Bush had a good game that game, I remember. You know who got the interception? James Ihedebo, who ended up playing for the Lions later. So yeah, that's the time that I broke my cell phone because Matthew Stafford threw an interception on the first. I think we had 2 timeouts left too. Talk about being a Lions fan.
Probably the same as being a Michigan fan. How about Jaden Reed, the wide receiver out of Michigan State?
Is that for me? Who is that? Is that for me?
Yeah, you put it down.
Are you throwing it back to me?
Yeah.
What's happening?
We're trying to talk a little bit about college football. And Jaden Reed is a start this week, right?
This is a professional organization. Austin, get your show together. Who's running this thing? Am I supposed to be talking about Jaden Reed right now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Jaden Reed is a wide receiver for the Michigan State Spartans.
Excited to be here for week 9. No Austin, no Felix, just the greatest minds at Campus to Canton. Gentlemen, How you doing today? How you guys feeling on this beautiful Saturday before we jump in and start talking about some Week 9 college football?
Feeling pretty good. I mean, in Felix's defense, if he's not here, it's because he's doing anything else that he would rather be doing. So,
Yeah, that's true. He made that very apparent to us.
He did.
That is fair point.
Second quarter, how many times are you going to hand it to Kenneth Walker? And Ohio State has been good against the run. So I'm sitting, Mr. East Lansing, Kenneth Walker. By the way, we should give credit to Matt Bruning, who one of the guys he was touting in the offseason. He touted 2 transfers. One didn't pan out. The other did, Kenneth Walker. And he's been excellent this season. And so let me give the rare opportunity to give some credit to Matt Bruning.
All right, Matt. So he gives you props at 103.42, and he said Ryan Day was a good coach at 102.50. If you need those timestamps here.
So I'm right there with you. We're in
And
lockstep, like always.
now I'm starting to think like Colin has like slowly gotten himself inside my head, and all of a sudden I'm just like, that sounds like a great. Why did I? Oh, it's because I thought that. No, really, it's Colin secretly
Well, no,
like
you were-
whispering in my ear.
Well,
you
you had
were
a good
you were
run.
the one on you were the one on Kenneth Walker. So hat tip to you on that one. I was not on him early.
I'm wondering. I don't even know if I want to go with this wide receiver. Did you mention this wide receiver right here? Okay, so I got one of my own. Colin did not influence me on this one. I'm going to be honest. I don't know how to say his last name, guys. I'm horrible with pronunciation. But Eric at Texas Tech. That's what I'm going to call him. Last week, massive.
Welcome to the Tailgate, brought to you by CampusToCanton.com. It's week 5 of the college football season. We are starting to find out who is for real, who is not. We were not aware that gag was coming. So we have our Campus to Canton cohort here. We've got Colin Decker, Matt Bruning, Brandon Hay, a surprise guest down there in the corner who can no longer show his face after his near certainty that Iowa would lose to Maryland last night.
In this one, I mean, he's just kind of been what we come to expect from all of these. Every week in, week out, he's having a big game. 10, 108, 4 touchdowns. Just monster game here. Second game back-to-back going over 100 yards.
Was it decent or was it monster? Because you've given us both of those adjectives in the last 30 seconds here, Colin.
Monster game.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Just wanted to check in.
Maybe not. Maybe your team's really bad and you're in a 24-team league.
Look, there's some people on this show right here that like to draft bad players just so they can cut them later, which also probably means they're not good at drafting good players earlier in the draft. So I have no doubt there's some people who have to start Milton. I think Milton will be fine.
I am not in a situation where I have to start Milton anywhere, Matt. So joke's on you.
I wasn't even saying you. I mean, don't get so offended, Colin.
Man.
We're just throwing stuff out here into the ether. That's
Throwing a
all.
lot of shade in my direction today.
Nobody's
You take
saying-
1 week off, and then all of a
Look,
sudden, everybody comes
Austin
at
was
you.
trying to swat a fly earlier, and then I just saw somebody said nobody was saying you. Yeah, it's like there's this thing over here. Ooh, Colin, man, coming back with the fire takes after 1 week off. I like
Jeff Sims. If you can't start Jeff Sims and Jahmyr Gibbs today against Duke, when can you start? When can you ever start? I stole that from Nate Marchese, by the way, who just tweeted that. So.
You're embarrassing yourself all over the show this morning, Felix. You're stealing content.
I mean,
You're
I
telling
cited it.
stories about the Sad Sack Lions. I mean, let's stay on script here. Come on, man. You're better than that.
Jaden Reed. He has over 20 fantasy points his last 4 games, so that's why I initially put him as a start before Felix did.
And do you want to talk about Jeff Sims too while we're here?
No, not much about Jeff Sims. You know, that was another player stolen from me. But you know, I'm not going to be bitter about it. Look,
There
Felix
there are
has had his
26
shine.
teams on bye weeks. I mean, are we starting Peyton Thorne? What's going on here? Yes, Jeff Sims is an all-around start. Anthony Richardson is a start.
Just shut up. Shut up.
Oh, it's not my
God.
turn. My bad.
I am next.
Do you
here.
want to go through mine too, or
Felix is done for the show. This is why we don't invite him on in the mornings. I have two.
Yeah, but SMU is a team that's emerging. They get Ulysses Bentley back, who's been injured part of the season. I think that there are too many options to stop for SMU's defense or SMU's offense, excuse me. And I think they pull off the upset, so we can stop talking about Cincy.
I would love to.
When you don't put your picks on the sheet, you get who on side you pick.
This is Matt's Joker backstory. This is how he went bad here. This morning show.
So again, thank you. Sorry, I just realized I had myself muted. There's a lot more on there. I spent probably days worth of going through and grabbing videos. It was a lot of fun. Brandon was here pretty much every week as well. I'm sure he agrees with that. It was a lot of fun doing the show, and a lot of that goes to you guys who tune in every single week. So we really appreciate it. So enough with the sentimental stuff, Brandon. You're gonna make me cry. Let's jump in and talk about what happened Friday. Let's start with Sam Heward. He struggled last night in his first start in the Apple Cup. And I don't want to just really be a Sam Heward discussion if you're up for it. Really, all of these, I'd call them as COVID freshmen, right? All these guys who had their senior years in high school affected in some way by COVID have really struggled. I mean, even Caleb Williams, he came in, was really good to start off the season, and then just has kind of really struggled in this back half. We haven't seen Kyle McCord get out there. J.J. McCarthy has looked good at times. Kind of what were your thoughts on Sam Heward, and if you want to attack that whole COVID freshman class as a whole?
Yeah, I think Washington in general, they just don't run a scheme that's very quarterback friendly. I mean, Dylan Morse has been in there, and really, every line every week for Washington was under like 150 passing yards. So Heward struggled last night. I mean, I think they probably should have gotten him some time earlier in the year, but yes. So with a lot of these quarterbacks not getting to play their senior year, and, everything kind of being up in the air. So a lot of teams, I think, probably went with the players that were already on campus because, they've had time and, with the COVID year, it really affected them. I think they'll have better years. I know McCord hasn't gotten in much. He had that one game he started. He's been in spot duty and thrown a couple, bad interceptions. But I think there's better days ahead for him as well with McCarthy. McCarthy had that bad fumble against Michigan State. But he looked pretty good against Maryland last week, albeit, a team that doesn't have the talent that Michigan has. But, yeah, the quarterbacks definitely, freshman quarterbacks didn't get the run that we thought they might, throughout the, different teams in college football.
Yeah, so that's really going to be interesting when it comes to, like, the analytics crowd. Now, I'm not great with that stuff, so I don't know how much that matters, but how much maybe that next year could change things for them. And really quick, if you guys don't, subscribe to Brandon Lejeune's Devi Deep Dive YouTube channel. He said he does really great job at putting all the film up of these guys. And he said he just made one of Sam Heward. So if you really want to go in, as he said, rough game, if you really want to go see how rough it was, you can go in there because he clips all the stuff of just their plays. So it might be something. I still think he made some pretty good throws in there. And the one positive thing I'll say about him and watching that game last night is he's more mobile than I thought he was. Based on watching a lot of his high school stuff, I thought he was really kind of a more just stand in the pocket guy. He can move around a little bit in the pocket. So I was kind of excited to see that. And Brandon said that'll drop in a couple hours. So definitely check that out. Next up, the big one, at least for me, because I've been touting them all season long. I said they were going to get into the playoffs. Ritter and Cincinnati moved to 12-0. Is next stop the college football playoffs?
I would say so. I watched, maybe the first quarter when they seemed to be struggling. I thought, maybe they kind of have a little letdown after that SMU game, but then they really started to pick it up, kind of what Cincinnati's done in some games against, lesser opponents, start off slow, but ended up, doing better through the game. I think Cincinnati just has to be big Bulldog fans. They just want to not see Alabama beat Georgia, because then probably Alabama, Georgia take up a spot, a Big Ten takes a spot, and then you run the risk of someone else coming up there. Even in that scenario, I think Cincinnati should be the fourth team, but We've never seen them obviously, put a G5 team in there. So I don't know if they would still do that, but I think Cincinnati's done enough, especially with that, big win over Notre Dame and that, humongous win over SMU when some people thought SMU might get them. I think they've done enough to get in the playoff, but it's going to be interesting to see how the committee kind of thinks about them.
Yeah, the staying part is going to be big. I mean, I will admit, them getting put in at 4 this past Tuesday, I think was a big step for them. We've never seen a G5 team get up there, and I honestly thought they were going to continue to keep them at 5 so they didn't have the argument of pulling them out of the top 4 like they did back in 2015 when I still can't remember if it was TCU or Baylor, but one of those was in the top 4, and then they pulled them out to put Ohio State in, and it was that was a very controversial year. Now, I still think Ohio State proved them right because they went on and won the national championship. But a lot of people were not happy with that. And I was very curious as if they would do that with Cincinnati. They might still do it. I think the biggest thing for them is what happens in Bedlam tonight, which we'll obviously pick that game, so we can talk a little bit about that later. But I think that's really, even if Alabama plays Georgia close, I could see Alabama staying in and Cincinnati still staying in, depending on what happens in Bedlam. Utah continues rising toward the Pac-12 championship. Another good game for them this past week. Really interesting team. There's the young freshman Peter Castelli, who I really like, transfers out because it looks like it's going to be Cam Rising's job. They also are bringing in Nate Johnson, who is, in my opinion, a very good freshman. Just kind of your thoughts on them. Do you think that they win the Pac-12? They play, it's either Oregon or I can't remember who. I think maybe Washington State, if Oregon State is able to upset Oregon today.
Yeah, I think Utah, looks pretty good. They have a good defense. They run the ball, and I think Cameron Rising is very good. I kind of wanted to ask your opinion because the way Utah plays, it's a more run-heavy. So that kind of limits Cameron Rising's potential. So I wanted to get your thoughts on him moving forward after this year.
Yeah, I'm curious because I didn't think he was going to be that good. He was a guy that Austin really liked earlier in the year. He got beat out by the guy that I thought was going to be very good for fantasy, and that was Charlie Brewer. Like, I was picking up Brewer at the end of my Campus to Canton leagues, and every single one was like, you know what? He brings an actual passing dynamic to this offense because, as you mentioned, they are very run-heavy. And I was like, but he's a guy who can go out there and sling it for a couple touchdowns, and he's a guy you're going to get really late. And then Brewer just kind of did nothing, and then Rising comes in and looks amazing. I don't know what I want to say I don't think he has really good college CFF potential and C2C potential, but I'm almost positive he's been like a top 24 to top 30 option every single week. So he might actually have some decent potential going into next year, especially now he was there last year, but he was injured. So it'll be almost 3 years into this offense going into next year. I think he's a guy that you're still going to be able to get really late because nobody really talks about him. He can do a little bit with his legs as well. I think he threw 3 touchdowns. I think was it last night? Yeah, yesterday during the day. Yesterday he threw 3 touchdowns. It was only for like 170 something yards. They use him when they need to, but it's effective. And I mean, at the end of the day, those points matter. And then last but not least, before we get into all of our betting stuff, Breece Hall. I mean, Breece hauls the Cyclones and runs all over the Horned Frogs. I just wanted to touch on him because he gets a lot of hate, I think, in the Devy community because he's not this big home run threat. He's a really, really good running back, and it was one of the coolest moments I thought in college football yesterday. If you guys didn't see it, go look it up. He breaks a record for the only player in college football history to run for a touchdown or get a touchdown in 24 straight games. It's an NCAA record. You can see how much it meant to him. He was in tears. He went and spent a couple moments with his family. I can't wait to see him at the next level because I think he gets disrespected a lot. Yeah, he's not going to take many yards, 60 yards, run 60 yards to the house, but he is a very good running back. I think he's going to produce very well in the NFL. Your thoughts on Hall?
Yeah, I love Breece Hall. He's still my running back 1 for the 22 class. And I think, I know we really like those players that have that breakaway speed like Saquon Barkley and running backs like that. But with the sudden quickness and, in short distances, I think he's fine. And, I'm not saying he's, like James Robinson, but James Robinson doesn't really have the greatest speed. But in short distances, he can get you chunks of 20 yards and every now and then get you a 50-yard touchdown. So I think, from the running back position, that's fine with that, short quickness. I think he has great vision and he's a good pass catcher. So I think, even if Isaiah Spiller kind of goes ahead of him, I think Breece Hall will still be a solid back. Maybe not elite status, but I think he'll definitely be a very good running back in the NFL.
I'm glad that you said James Robinson because that's a really interesting play. Like, I know you're not comping him to James Robinson, but I actually think that's when you look at NFL play, very good because Robinson does do a lot out of the backfield, and I think that's where Hall can thrive, especially for you in fantasy. He is really a really good receiving back, and in the NFL, we've seen that there's not really a lot of these workhorse backs, and I don't know that Breece Hall will be a workhorse, but the fact that he can do that much in the receiving game, I do think we could see a James Robinson type role for him. And maybe they bring in another guy who's got some speed that they can use to hit the home run threat. But if Hall's going to be out there and getting 70% of the workload, I think he's going to at least finish as an RB1 once. And I'll give credit to, and I don't remember exactly who it was, someone at Dynasty Nerds looked into this, and very rarely do you have running backs finish as like an RB1 and continue to do that. I definitely think Breece Hall can get a RB1 year at least once in his career and likely be a high-end RB2 his entire time. Granted, we got to see where he goes and everything, but I'm with you. I'm really excited to see him in the NFL. So before we get into our prize picks and starts and sits, Moxley gave me a bunch of betting info that I'm just going to kind of read for you guys because I don't understand anything of what he's talking about. So hashtag secondary talk, which is Moxley's big thing. The Sooners defense has been really good the last 2 weeks. Don't trust Oklahoma State's offense here. Oh, whoops. Maybe that was not what I was supposed to be reading. I apologize. Michigan, Ohio State. There we go. Take the under on 64.5. Key question is, can Michigan keep Ohio State's offense slightly contained? Pure number play. Michigan ranks 5th in defensive success rate, specifically 3rd against the pass. Michigan pass rush is good. Entire front front seven. Michigan ranks 3rd in tackling grade from PFF, should help limit big plays. He is also saying Clemson right now is getting 10.5 on FanDuel. Can South Carolina score more than 10 points here? South Carolina ranks 112th in rushing success. Clemson is 3rd. South Carolina, 3rd string quarterback, ranks 124th in pass blocking. Don't like that. Clemson's offense is good at winning in the trenches. 44th in line offense. South Carolina ranking 110th on defense. Note, you can play South Carolina team total under at 15.5. Texas Tech Baylor game, he's saying take the under at 52.5. Both rank in the bottom 50 in pace of play. Baylor ranks 104th specifically with a top 25 rush rate. Jerry Bohannon is banged up. Baylor could not do jack shit without him last week. Baylor ranks 18th in total defensive success rate. Texas Tech struggles against good defenses. Houston given 32 on DraftKings versus UConn. They should have been blanked last week. Got lucky on the opening kick. Cougars ranked top 10 in defensive success rate. UMass +7 versus New Mexico State. Both teams are terrible. Neither should be a touchdown favorite here. And then last but not least, Notre Dame +20 versus Stanford. It is a number too high to make the spread. Stanford is terrible right now, even with Tanner McKee at quarterback. Notre Dame is rolling on both sides of the ball. Huge defensive performances, and offense is clicking behind Kyron. Keynote, anything under 3 touchdowns is Smash City. So that is Moxley's betting notes. And he just mentioned Houston, and I meant to bring them up. I actually think that could be a massive win for Cincinnati next week in the AAC championship because that's who they play. Houston, good offense, and as you just saw from Moxley's notes, they're actually a pretty good defense. If Cincinnati goes out there and wins that game fairly, I shouldn't say easily, but if they make it look like a good win for them, I think that locks them into the playoffs. All right, Brandon, we're coming to you first here with your prize picks. We did get some from Colin, and I believe we got some starts and sits from Kristen here that excuse me, that will read your prize picks.
Yeah, so I have, first of all, I have Sam Hartman. His number is 292.5. Excuse me, pass yards versus Boston College. I have the over. They don't really run the ball, and I think Boston College defense isn't great, and I think that number is pretty low, and I think Hartman should get that. Next, I'm going into the Michigan-Ohio game. Cade McNamara, it says 17 fantasy points. I'm going the over. I'm actually, we'll talk about this later. I'm actually the opposite of what Felix said. I don't think they can run it 50 times. I just don't think Ohio State will allow that. I think Michigan's going to have to throw the ball. So if you think about this fantasy point line, that's, around 200 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. I think he's going to have to do that, even if it is a blowout. I think he'll, they'll have to pass the ball, so he'll get that. And the last one is to say, Colin did something different with Phil Jerkovic. I had the over on fantasy points at 20.5 fantasy points versus Wake Forest. I think that game could be high scoring. Wake Forest's defense is awful. So I think he could go over. And Colin also had the over on 208.5 passing yards. I think that is extremely low versus Wake Forest, so I would go the over there. And the other one Colin had was for Jordan Travis of Florida State versus Florida. He has the line at 24.5 rush yards, and he did the over, and he was saying that they've gone over that every week since week 4, except Clemson. And, Clemson has a great defense. So I think that's another good play because that Florida defense is, in disarray, and who knows how motivated the Gators will be today.
Yeah, I mean, that whole Florida team is in disarray right now, though they might rally after losing Dan Mullen. We'll see what happens there. I've got two, both of them Malik Willis. I think he goes over on his 211.5 passing yards, and with that, his 24.5 passing or fantasy points as well. I think he's going to pass the ball and run the ball a lot in this one, so I'm in on Malik Willis today in some of his props. All right, let's go to your running back props now, Brandon.
Yeah, so I'm with Florida State again. Jashaun Corbin, he's been really good for them. His fantasy point total is 14.5. I have the over. Again, that Florida run defense, we saw what LSU did against them, and pretty much anyone has done. Like I said, I just, it seems like Florida State is kind of on, coming up, this year, and Florida's going down. So I think Florida State's just going to be more motivated. Travis Dye, I have the under at 102.5 rushing yards versus Oregon State. The Beavers are a top 50 rushing defense, and I just think they might spread the carries out a little bit for Oregon, and I just don't think he reaches that 102.5 against that defense. And lastly, I have James Cook for Georgia against Georgia Tech. His line for receptions is 1.5. And he seems to really be the one they pass the ball to. So I could easily see him maybe even get that in the first half. So I have the over for that. Did you want to do Collins on this one?
I can, yeah. I've got some. I just forgot to put them on the sheet. So Travion Henderson, I'm taking the over on his 13.5 fantasy points. The big thing with them, and I can't remember, it may have been what you talked about. We talked about on your Decoding Devi show, with the way that front line gets after quarterbacks. I think they're going to try and use a lot of screen passes to try and negate that rush, which means you're likely going to get a lot of those to Travion Henderson. 13.5 just seems really low for a guy who, same thing, we saw Kenneth Walker do it against him. All it takes is like one, if they block up that line one time, he's got that speed to go because he's faster than Kenneth Walker to take a big play to the house. So 13.5, I think this is going to be a close game. I don't think he has a huge game. 13.5 just seemed really low for me for Travion Henderson. I would definitely take the over on his fantasy points. Colin put Pat Garwo III out of Boston College here, 86.5 rushing yards. He is taking the over. He's at 100 yards in 2 of the last 3 games, and Wake's rush defense is 11th worst. They're giving up 214 rushing yards per game. He has also taken his guy Chase Brown out of Illinois over on the 16 fantasy points. He thinks he can easily have 100 yards and a touchdown against Northwestern. Right there's your 16 points. Northwestern is really bad against the run as well. I believe that's all we have for our running back play, so let's go ahead and get into our wide receiver ones. Back to you, Brandon.
Yeah, so first I have I've kind of gone with him a bunch. David Bell should be his last regular season game for Purdue. The line is 104.5 receiving yards, if I can read, versus Indiana, and they have the 70th pass defense. Giving up 235 pass yards per game. Their defense is not nearly as good as last year. I think last year was just opportunistic, so I have the over because they really like to get David Bell the ball. Next is Zay Flowers. I took the receptions at 3.5 versus Wake Forest. I'm going over. This is tough because he's gotten touchdowns the past couple weeks and big plays, but not a ton of receptions. But I just feel like they're going to pass the ball a lot. And maybe him and Jerkovic are going to get more on the same page and get more passes. And last is John Mechie for Alabama against Auburn. His line is 82.5 receiving yards. I'm going with the over. he's had three out of the last 5 games. He's been over 100 yards. And it just seems like Alabama loves to throw the ball with Bryce Young. They had over 500 yards last week, and I think they'll still do that. I think Jameson Williams will have a good game also, but I think John Mechie has been a nice compliment to Williams, and he'll get the over.
Yeah, I really like the John Mechie one. I think Bam is trying to go out there and win the quote unquote style points. Nick Saban, I didn't get a chance to watch the whole thing, but he went on a rant apparently a couple days ago about this Alabama team in the playoffs, and I think he knows that if they don't beat Georgia or possibly lose a very close game to Georgia, they're likely out. So I think they're going to go out there and try and roll Auburn today. I went with Chris Olave over 72.5 receiving yards. This is a little bit of a home run swing type play. I looked because I think one of these wide receivers is going to go off. And I think if the Michigan defense is going to pay attention to one of them, it's likely Garrett Wilson. So then it comes down to, is it going to be JSN or Olave? The reason I picked Olave is he's the lowest by a wide margin out of the three of them on Prize Picks. I believe Garrett Wilson and JSN were both around 90. Chris Olave was at 72.5. We know that he's a deep threat for them. If he gets one big play, then he only needs a couple more. And I think that they are going to target him and try and at least get him a touchdown as well in this one to kind of help get a little bit more over David Boston and setting that all-time touchdown reception record. So Olave was the guy that I picked here. Colin went with Nathaniel Dell over 87.5 receiving yards. He said they play UConn, 100 yards in 3 of the last 4, and Alton Caskill is questionable. He also took Jahan Dotson with the over on 22.5 fantasy points. Michigan State has the worst pass defense in the country, 340.3 passing yards per game. He thinks that he finds the end zone. So, all right, let's jump into our start sits. And I'm going with my guy, Grant Wells here. He's had a fairly decent season. It's actually funny I say that because the stats don't necessarily bear that out, with just 3,000 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. But I do think he has another top 24, top 25 day here against Western Kentucky because I expect it to be a shootout. Even though Rasheen Ali, I think, is the best player on that offense, he does get a lot of receiving stuff as well, so he might dump the ball off to him. I'm expecting a big day from Grant Wells against Western Kentucky. Travis Dye, you had him in your under, I believe, on Prize Picks. I still think that they're going to lean on him a lot. As you mentioned, Oregon State does have a really good rush defense. When they get down into the red zone, I think that they're going to rely on him. He's going to get a couple touchdowns, so I think he's at least a top 24 play at running back this week. And then last but not least for me, Dontavian Wicks. I'm going back to him. I really like this kid. I think it's going to be a shootout here with Virginia Tech. And I think that he's going to put up a ton of points. It's been down the past couple weeks, but with Brennan Armstrong back and playing, I think he is in for a big game. Who are we going to next? I forgot. It is Colin. All right. So on Colin, he has got, right? Is this Colin? I feel like this is not
the
Colin.
top one's Chris.
Oh, it's Chris. My bad. I was looking at the wrong side here. So Prize Picks. This is why Matt doesn't host the show. There we go. Phil Jerkovic. Wake Forest sucks so bad. That was his analysis for us. So Phil Jerkovic is in for for Chris. Josh Johnson, wide receiver out of Tulsa. So the SMU secondary is terrible. Johnson, wide receiver 1 for Tulsa. Now we are here at Brandon.
Yeah, I'll do mine and Colin because we share one player. First, I said start Jackson Smith-Njigba. I actually think he's going to be the one that has a big day because with that Michigan pass rush, they kind of did this with Olave, before the quick crosses and everything. I think they're going to throw a lot of quick passes, especially early on, to get Stroud comfortable in that hostile environment. And Njigba just has been great after the catch. And I don't necessarily know if the corners and safeties are great for Michigan. And I think you could kind of do that in kind of order of Ohio State. I would say Smith-Njigba and then Olave and Wilson the last, because I just feel like Olave has been a Michigan killer through the years. And he's always done very well. Next is Will Shipley of South Carolina.
Really quick on that. That was actually his first ever touchdown catch, was against Michigan back when he was a freshman, I believe. So yeah, he's talked a lot about how much this rivalry and the game means to him. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that in 2018 because I was like, "Who is this guy?" And
I'm gonna
think
be
he
honest.
blocked the punt.
All
I
of
think
us
he blocked
Ohio
the
State
punt that
guys
game too.
too. We're like, who the hell is this guy? So yeah, I'm right there with you.
All right, and next is Will Shipley for versus South Carolina. South Carolina is 100th versus the run, giving up 185 per game. DJU still struggling, doing a little better, but they're going to depend on the run, and I think Shipley will have a big game and he'll probably get some receptions also. And this is one me and Colin share. It's Chase Brown versus Northwestern again. They are 123rd versus the run, give up 234 rushing yards a game, which is crazy. And Illinois cannot pass the ball no matter what quarterback's in, and they run the ball a lot. So Chase Brown. And then Colin also has Cedric Tillman, wide receiver, Tennessee, plays Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's horrible. They're the 12th worst pass defense. And the last 5 games, he's had 21, 36, 19.9, 28.2, and 21.4 fantasy points per game. And the last one for Colin is Isaiah Nair from Wyoming, wide receiver. Hawaii has the 4th worst pass defense, giving up a little under 300 pass yards per game. In the last 4, he's had 22 points, 24.6, 20 points, and 23 fantasy points. So that's from Colin.
All right, so on to our sits, and I'll kick it off with Caleb Williams. Oklahoma State has a very, very good defense. May not be one of the best in college football. At least some don't think so. They rank up there metrically. But for the Big 12, at least, they have the best defense, in my opinion. I think that Caleb Williams is going to struggle a little bit in this one. So I'm sitting him. I don't expect him to have a massive day. Even if he gets you a massive rushing touchdown, I think overall his stats will be a little bit down. I actually chose to sit Will Shipley. South Carolina, that's who they're playing, right? I didn't misread that. They have been pretty good against the run, and I think that that's who they're going to focus in on. You mentioned, DJU has really kind of struggled this year, as we all know. I think they're going to do everything they can to slow down Will Shipley and forcing DJU to try and beat them. And then last but not least for me, Jaden Reed. Penn State has one of the better secondaries in all of college football. We saw them slow down, really, Ohio State in that game. And everybody talks about how Ohio State has 3 of the best wide receivers in all of college football, the best wide receiver room in all of college football. Michigan State has just Jaden Reed. So I think they're going to focus on slowing him down. I don't think that he's in. Maybe he gets a big play, but I think overall he's going to have a bad day for fantasy. For Moxley, he's got his guy, Jahmyr Gibbs, and you can't hate him because he always wears the jersey, but he does have Jahmyr Gibbs on here, and his analysis is they're playing Georgia. So that's fairly good analysis, actually. And then he also has Chevin Cordero out of Hawaii. Hawaii, let's see here. Wyoming is better than their raw numbers indicate. Good success rates on defense, so he thinks Cordero struggles here. Brandon, who do you and Colin have for sits this week?
Yeah, this kind of intertwines too. He said Kai Thomas for Minnesota. I said all the Minnesota running backs versus Wisconsin. They're first against the run, giving up only a little over 64 rush yards per game. And in that game that Michigan won by 21 points at Wisconsin, they only ran for a total of 112 yards. And we've seen how much Michigan runs the ball. Then second, I have Rasheen Ali from Marshall versus Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky gives up a lot of pass yards. So I think your Grant Wells talk could be good. And, they have a top 60 rush defense. That's probably mostly because they can't stop the pass. But anyway, Ali has been held under 100 yards 2 of the last 3 games. I actually have him in the program, so I've seen that he hasn't been putting up the numbers he was. And then another one that I have in the program, Sincere McCormick, plays North Texas. They are a top 35 rush defense, and McCormick has been under 100 yards the last 2 games, so you're really hoping on some touchdowns for both of those guys. And I don't like to just depend on the touchdowns for that. And Colin also says Travell Harris. He said, as Colin does, he did another player that played on Friday, so let me skip that. And the last one is Tank.
Yeah. I saw that, and I was like, I thought about making a graphic for it and just putting at the bottom, he played Friday, but then I decided to just leave it alone. But because I'm thankful that Colin filled it out for us. So
yeah, definitely. Tank Bigsby, running back Auburn, plays Alabama. Their pass D isn't great, said, but their run D is very good, 5th best. He was over 100 yards last week, but TJ Finley is bad, 53% completion, 5.3 yards per attempt, and he thinks that Alabama is going to load up to stop Tank, which I would tend to agree with.
All right, so we'll get in now and give you guys our game picks, and it is just me and Brandon, which is probably meant to be because it is you and me sitting atop of the standings here. Me and you are both sitting at 48 and 18. Austin is one game behind us at 47 and 19, followed by Chris at 43 and 23, and then Colin at 40 and 26. So I will give our picks, and then we'll give the rest of the groups. Not that it matters, or I guess it really comes down to you, me, and Austin. Austin did go opposite of us on a couple of games, so he has a chance to jump both of us. I'm going with Alabama here, though. I just don't. If Bo Nix was playing in this game, I do think that there'd be a shot for Auburn to win it. Interestingly enough, the last 2 times Alabama has gone to Auburn for the Iron Bowl, they have lost. But I don't know that TJ Finley is enough to this. Bo Nix just sometimes has that magic that makes it happen, but with him not playing, I don't believe TJ Finley's enough to get it done. I'm taking Alabama.
Yeah, I agree. I'm taking Alabama also. Their offense is really rolling, and without Bo Nix, I think they're going to struggle to move the ball. And like you said, I think Saban knows that he has to just roll Auburn to give him some insurance for the playoff. So, I have Alabama big in this one.
Chris took Alabama as well, said Auburn is missing Nick's defense isn't quite there, and Bama's defense has steadily improved, and Austin and Colin both took Alabama as well. Next up should be a very good game between Colin's Penn State Nittany Lions and Dwight's Michigan State Spartans. This was very tough for me because I'm going Kenneth Walker and Sparty, because while they do have a very good pass defense in Penn State, you can run the ball on them a little bit. Kenneth Walker, I think, wants to go out there and have a huge day after really kind of shitting the bed against Ohio State, though he is a little beaten up. But there's 2 games on this thing that were very hard for me to pick. This was one of them because, as Colin mentioned earlier, in starting Jahan Dotson, Michigan State's defense is really bad against the pass. Well, I don't think Sean Clifford is a good quarterback. I think he might be serviceable enough to get them the win, but I'm going to take Michigan State.
Yeah, I also took Michigan State. I think this definitely could go the other way depending on Kenneth Walker's health, so I don't really know about that. But I feel like Mel Tucker will get these guys going. He just signed that big contract, and I think he's going to get them going after that embarrassing loss last week. Michigan State's at home, so some of the seniors, I think they'll perform well. So I've got Sparty in this one.
Let's see here. So Chris took Michigan State as well. Discounted Sparty after the loss. Penn State can't score, and Michigan State can. Austin took Michigan State, and Colin, he put ... So I'm assuming he's just doing it because he's a fan and he's really not happy with the pick, but he's taking Penn State. Hey, why not, right? You're in last, swing for the fences. Next up, we have Oklahoma at Oklahoma State Bedlam. This was the other game. I really could not figure out which way I wanted to go with this one. I ended up taking Oklahoma because I believe in their offense a smidge more than I do Oklahoma State's. But Oklahoma State's defense, I think, is going to keep them in the game the entire time. I would not be surprised if this is a last drive win by Oklahoma, drive down, get the field goal. My biggest thing for this, and I was looking it up, Oklahoma leads the series in Bedlam, mind you, 90-18. Oklahoma State can just not beat Oklahoma in this series for some reason. They also have 7 ties for those that really care about that part of it. So I really think Oklahoma gets the win here, but I don't love that choice because Oklahoma State's defense with the way Caleb Williams has played could really kind of turn this game on its head.
Yeah, I agree with this was kind of hard for me too. I picked Oklahoma mostly because I don't believe in Spencer Sanders. I think if they can Oklahoma can play, has been playing a lot better defense, as Chris kind of mentions. And I think Caleb Williams will bounce back in this one, a big rivalry game. I just think they have too much talent for Oklahoma State. And I would think Oklahoma would load up on the run with Warren and try to stop that and make Spencer Sanders beat them. And I just don't know if he is capable of keeping up with that Oklahoma offense.
All right, so Chris took Oklahoma as well. This is where he said hashtag secondary talk. The Sooners defense has been really good the last 2 weeks. Don't trust Oklahoma State's offense here. Austin took Oklahoma State, as did Colin. So this is one of the games that Austin went opposite of us, trying to catch us. So we'll see if that happens. Next up, what I think is going to be a very interesting game, just because BYU has been a good team all season long, but a lot of people talk about they're not quite as good as their record or their ranking. They are number 14. They're going in against USC, who I don't believe can make a bowl game because they're under 500 now. But Jackson Dart, I believe, getting another start, just a chance for him to go out there and prove himself. But I'm going BYU. They've been the better team all season long. Jaron Hall has been good. Tyler Algier is likely last game. Maybe he plays in the bowl game. I'm not sure. But I think BYU wants to go out there, and I believe they'll go to 10 wins if they win this game. So 10-2 season's really good for a team like BYU, who let's just be honest. Nobody thought this team was going to do anything after Zach Wilson left last year. So I'm hoping that they get the win against the Spartans today.
You mean the Trojans?
Whatever. They suck too, but yeah, I meant the Trojans.
Yeah, I have BYU also. I don't have a lot of faith in USC. I think the main thing for USC is just get Dart more experience and, kind of look at a couple of their other younger players. I think BYU also is kind of overrated for their record, but I do still think they're better than USC, and Algier has really been killing it lately, rushing the ball. So I think that'll help. And I know USC has had some struggles stopping the run. So give me BYU in this one.
Chris says he's taking BYU as well. He said USC is booty. Austin is taking BYU, and Colin, again, trying to catch up. And his love for Jackson Dart, I'm sure, played into this as well. He is taking USC. All right, last but not least, the game. Ohio State versus Michigan. Talked a lot about it earlier when Felix jumped in and joined us. I think this is going to be a much closer game, and Vegas clearly thinks that as well. I haven't seen the latest line, but it opened at 8 points, so really, and you usually give the home team 3, so really it's just like a 5-point game here. They're expecting it to be a close game, and I agree. We have not seen CJ Stroud play a defense like this all season. When he played Tulsa and Oregon, which were the best defenses that he played, he was not good. Tulsa, if you want to give it because of the shoulder injury, fine, I'll listen to you. But still, Oregon and Tulsa, he was not good in those games. And again, I mentioned the Nebraska game. Decent defense for the Big Ten overall, and it was their only away game against a decent team. And they struggled. They won 26-14 or something like that. I don't remember, but it was not even that close. They scored with less than a minute left to get that last touchdown. It was a very close game. Stroud had a bad pick and a fumble in that game. I'm taking Ohio State, but I will be honest. I've talked a lot of shit on Twitter. I've done the Xing of the M's all season, all week long. I am very scared that this is the game that Jim Harbaugh finally gets it. It's been a good 10-year run for the Buckeyes, but it might be coming to an end today. This is probably one of the best teams. You'll be able to tell me if I'm right on this. I think this is one of the best teams Harbaugh has, and Ohio State has some serious questions. We talk a lot about how good this offense has been, but they've really done it against bad teams all season long. This is going to be a really good game today, but I'm taking Ohio State.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think this Michigan team is definitely better than the 2018 team. The 2016 team, it's kind of close, but I think the offense is better and the defense maybe have better pass rushers, even though that 2016 defense was very good. I will say earlier in the week, I wasn't as confident, but as the week has gone on, I'm getting more confident, and the team just keeps on talking about, how this team's different. Kane McNamara said that, they would have lost the Penn State game, maybe the Rutgers game, and I think it is. And Jim was, he's different this year too. He's got the intensity, but he's more, talkative with reporters. He's kind of more loose. And I think that's what Michigan's problem has been in all these games. They're tight. They know they've lost all these games. I think being a little more loose. And I think Michigan just needs to get up early. And I think it will be closer. And the line, it did move down a couple points yesterday. I saw it was about 6.5. So, Vegas seems to be trending that way. But yeah, I had to stay with Michigan. So I have Michigan winning this one, Harbaugh getting it off his back, and me possibly blacking out later in the day from how much drinking I will do.
Yeah, I mean, look, the one thing I'll say is, Austin talked about it earlier with Cade McNamara. He's better than Shea Patterson. He's better than John O'Corn. And I really think if they had a Cade McNamara type, Jim Harbaugh, Michigan might have won a couple of these games. I really am intrigued with what they're going to do. And, Felix talked a little bit about it earlier. The one thing I'll say, even if Corum is out, Hassan Haskins is a really good running back. He's going to be able to do some. And then we saw what Donovan Edwards did last week. If they use him in the passing game, look, Ohio State's weakness is that linebacker core. I mean, they've got a converted running back, and my God, his name just jumped out of my head, and I can't remember what it is at the moment. But regardless, Steel Chambers was a running back, and he's been playing linebacker for Ohio State this year because of how bad their linebacking core is. So definitely going to be a good game. I just want to mention, because I do have a little list here, Harry Miller is still out for the Buckeyes, so that is a big loss on their offensive line. My guy, G. Scott, he's missing out on the game. I'm sorry to hear that, but he's not going to be there. Quinn Ewers is in the building, though, so Quinn Ewers gets to experience this rivalry firsthand. Let's see here. What did everybody pick? Chris picked Ohio State. He said these teams aren't in the same breath right now. I disagree with that. And then Austin and Colin both picked Ohio State as well. So that will do it. There's no second hour, folks. It was just me and Brandon. Brandon, I really appreciate you jumping on with me for the final episode of season 1. Likely, we might do some kind of bowl game one or something. We haven't decided yet, but this will be the final real tailgate episode. I will say, I will plug it right now. We will be doing a bowl game contest. Winner gets a signed Zay Flowers Boston College jersey. So if you guys want that, we'll be putting it up in our Discord only. You've got to be a member of the Discord. So if you guys are not and you watch this, or if you listen, jump in the Discord. We have a lot of stuff in there. We'll be doing that jersey giveaway for whoever wins the bowl game mania thing, which we'll be setting up here in the next couple days as bowl games get ready to roll out. So everybody enjoy rivalry week. We will, I believe, Felix and myself will be back tonight for Coast to Coast to wrap up the Coast to Coast season as well. And we will see you guys again soon. Thank you to everybody who made this college football season a lot of fun. Brandon, thank you as well for jumping on. I've got to say, go Buckeyes, baby. Go Buckeyes.
Go Blue. Beat Ohio.